Shalom and welcome again to another edition of Secrets of Meaning, the podcast of Jewish Sacred Aging. I am your host, Rabbi Richard Address, and I greatly appreciate you being with us. With these podcasts, we hope to explore some of the issues that touch us, our families, and our community in light of the revolution in longevity that is helping to reshape our Jew and the world at large. And we appreciate your support. And you can follow us by going to the website, jewishsacredaging.com, or friending us on the Facebook page, Jewish Sacred Aging on Facebook. And we appreciate your ongoing support and continuing support of our work here at Jewish Sacred Aging. And it is with great pleasure that we welcome to the microphones and cameras today two outstanding doers of mitzvot, Phyllis Levy and Asma Kasuba. Here to talk about an organization that really I've been trying them to come to us with schedules and everything else. It's been a little crazy, but we're here now, and the most important thing. Shalom Salam, the Sisterhood of Shalom and Salam, a national organization that I'm going to suggest that probably a lot of people may not be aware of. So welcome, Asma, and welcome, Phyllis. And Asma, tell me about what this organization is, how it got started, how is it a national organization? Does it have chapters in various cities? What's the story?
Yeah, thank you for having us. So this is actually an international organization. We've got hundreds of thousands of sisters involved. We've got over 160 active adult chapters. There's actually 14 teen chapters. We've got predominantly United States, 27 states have different chapters, and we've got also sisters involved in several provinces in Canada and also in Berlin, Germany.
Wow. So, and you're coming to us from the beautiful locations of Southern New Jersey. So we're talking about the Southern New Jersey. How many women are involved in your particular chapter? I just wanted to know that.
About 18 women in our chapter. We try to keep them small, on average 9 to 10 Muslim women and 9 to 10 Jewish women. So at any given meeting, with people being able to attend, we always have a good but tight-knit group.
So I imagined in the pandemic and you're doing a lot of this stuff virtually and electronically right now rather than in person. Or am I wrong? Are you meeting in person, socially distanced with socially distant masks?
No, we've been meeting through Zoom. We've been pretty good about meeting every 6 weeks and keeping our cadence. We had a whole parking lot of topics we wanted to discuss, and there's a lot of interest and vigor, especially because everybody's so socially distanced, and we've been together for quite a while. We have built a sisterhood together, so we still look forward to meeting regularly through Zoom and keeping that tight connection to each other.
And Phyllis, how did you get involved? I mean, did you see this an ad in the newspaper? Did you see a flyer at Whole Foods? Did somebody tap you on the shoulder at the deli and say, this is something? How did you get involved with this?
Yeah. Well, actually, Amy Purdy, who's a local Jewish woman, who is a member of our chapter, had the idea initially to start a chapter in Cherry Hill. And she did tap me on the shoulder, actually, at ShopRite, and said that she was starting something, she wanted to start something, and it was called Sisterhood of Salaam Shalom, which she had me at Salaam Shalom because it was a group, actually, my son started at Penn in the early 2000s to get on campus the Jewish and, in that case, the Muslim Arab students to discuss the Palestinian-Israeli issues. So I loved the term. I thought it was great. And I said, and there's a song, a prayer. So I said, I'm in. And the first meeting that she had was at her home in Cherry Hill in September, actually 4 years ago, just almost to the day.
And so, just here, technically, is there a national website, Asma, if somebody wanted to learn more about Shalom Salam Sisterhood, do they go to a website or do they have to seek out somebody to find out something? How does somebody learn about it?
There's actually a great website with a ton of information, not just about the chapters, but Jewish Muslim holidays, all the events that we do. It's a great frequently asked questions about the faith. It's sosspeace.org.
Say that again. SOSS or
Peace.org.
peace.
Yes.
SOSSpeace.org. Okay, so you meet regularly. You're in the middle of a pandemic. You're in the middle of, shall we say, interesting and challenging times, especially between the United States, the Middle East countries. Things with Israel and various Arab states are changing. I'm sure you don't run out of things to talk about. But forget the politics of this. Talk to me a little bit about the sheer one-on-one relationship building between women who probably in an ordinary situation would never have an opportunity to meet each other and to really talk one-on-one and getting to know each other, using faith as sort of like the doorway to open up that conversation. Talk to me about how it's happened, some of the dynamics that have taken place in some of these meetings. What's it been like, that just getting to know somebody on a very profound personal level?
So in our meetings, we've built a real good circle of trust. There's no question off the table. We want to learn more about each other, and the more that we learn, the more we realize how many similarities and parallels we have, whether it's the scriptures, we talk about our faith, the values of a Jewish home and a Muslim home. We talk about similarities in cultures and customs, and especially our languages. So we don't run out of things to talk about. You're absolutely correct. We've talked about things such as, about the concept of love in our religion. We've talked about civil rights and humanity and equality in our faith. We just last month talked about racism and what our faiths and what teach us about accepting the others, and what our faith talks about in terms of our experiences, not only with dealing with racism, whether it's Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, but also what our faith teaches us about the kind of equality among brotherhood. And so we've had really great discussions. We've learned so much about the other faith, and as Phyllis can attest, the deeper we dive, the more foundations we find.
Phyllis, what's been the most challenging conversation you've had in one of these meetings?
Oh, definitely the one on Arab-Israeli politics in the Middle East, we brought it up only a year. We waited at least a year, in fact, frankly, 2 years, until we were well into establishing deep friendships, and that was under the guidance of our founders, who said, try to stay away from sensitive stuff until you really have a foundation of trust, as Usma mentioned. And we did, and we do, and it's only gotten stronger. Frankly, it was fascinating conversation. We, as a group, had been reading the book, The Faith Club, which was written after 9/11, and it was about a Muslim, and a Christian woman comparing their faith. And the chapter 9, I remember it because I was wary of, when we discussed chapter 9, how would it go with our group? It was about the Middle East politics, and it went very well. Frankly, the biggest tension was within the Jewish women of the group, actually, because some of us are more to the right and some of us are more to the left on that very topic. We only have we have 2 Middle Eastern Muslim women in our group, one from Egypt, I should say 3 now, Syria too, Egypt, Syria, and the UAE, but no one from Palestine. So there wasn't anyone in the group directly impacted in Palestine, but it was a wonderful conversation, and I think people felt they could express themselves fully, and it was definitely the one I was most concerned about leading. It went very well.
Is there a leader that takes charge every week, every meeting, or does it rotate, or is there one facilitator of these groups?
So Phyllis and I are the co-leads, so we're responsible for making sure that we've got actively engaged sisters, that we've got a kind of a learning curve of topics that we're covering, that we're scheduling and meeting regularly. And then a lot of the content that we talk about comes from the sisters. They suggest the topics. The one that we just discussed last month on racism was actually brought up by one of our Muslim sisters who was formerly a Catholic nun, and who talked about her experiences there as well in her faith. And she led that conversation with an African American Muslim sister and a Jewish sister. So we encourage each one to be actively involved, to take ownership of the sisterhood chapter, to drive the content and the discussion.
I imagine some people are wondering too. You meet once a month, sadly, right now only on Zoom, not in person. But does it stop there, or has this evolved over these last couple of years where, pandemic aside, you've gone socially together, you visit each other? In other words, there's a real relation developed between not only the women, but also the families. Has that also taken place? Phyllis?
I'll jump in. Oh, yeah, sure. I'll jump in. Yes, absolutely. We had hoped, frankly, for more of it this year before COVID hit. But we hosted at my home a couple of years ago already a Hanukkah celebration where we taught a little bit about Hanukkah to our Muslim sisters and sang songs, lit the menorah, and several of the children came for that. We've gone to this. Some of the women have Sukkot, and we went to their sukkahs and celebrated together. We went to Muslim homes for iftar, the feast at the evening of Ramadan. We went to the Philly Museum Library to hear a Palestinian author speak. We've tried to do more social events, frankly, some that are totally secular. We wanted to go to Grounds for Sculpture, but we'll have to wait for that.
Yeah, well, I know the pandemic has put a little hold on a lot of things. Now, you mentioned this is a chapter here in southern New Jersey, but there's chapters all over the United States, and I think you alluded to other countries as well. So in many organizations, are there opportunities for all these chapters to meet together? In other words, again, pandemic aside, are there national meetings? Are there opportunities to really get together with all these other chapters around the country or North America? And if so, how often does that take place? Anybody? Just jump in.
I can take that. So there is a national meeting that happens every year. Unfortunately, this year it will be through Zoom, but the good thing is the meeting will still take place. This is probably the 5th annual meeting that's being held. It's attended by hundreds of Muslim women, Muslim and Jewish women. It started off as a one-day event. We've had some very prominent speakers. We've had Cory Booker come. We've had, because Michelle Williamson had come and spoken as well. Then we've expanded from a one-day conference to like a whole weekend now, starting with a Friday prayer and community service event, a Shabbat dinner, having a cultural music event the night before the conference starts, which is usually on a Sunday. So it's a great opportunity to meet other like-minded women from across the country that are all in it for the same purpose of, fighting hatred and building peace. And we find a lot of interesting topics to cover from our discussions with them. There's a lot of opportunity to network with them and learn about what they're doing, what's happening in their kind of little pocket of the country or the world. And so it's an opportunity, we get every year, and they're trying to still make it very interactive. So this year it's going to be, I think, November 15th. Is that correct, Phyllis?
You can find it. You can find it on the website, SOSSPACE, PEACE, saspeace.org. All the information, all the speakers. It's wonderful. Highly recommend it.
So I got to ask you this question: You're hanging out, let's say, with some friends who aren't members of the sisterhood. You're telling them about, what are you doing differently, and you tell them about this group. I'm this may have happened to both of you, or one or two of, either or, at a particular period of time in the last year or so. What's been the general reaction of, other women friends that you explain what this? Do they say, "Oh my God," or "Gee, that's exciting," or "Why are you doing that?" or "How do I get involved?" Or, what's been some of the reaction? I'm sure it's been interesting. Phyllis, I mean, what?
Yeah, sure. No, everyone I mention it to is intrigued with it. Some people want to make the time and want to know how to join a chapter. And again, they can go to the website and find one near them. As Asma said, there are 160 chapters across the country. I've found only positive response to it. There's also some teen chapters, which we want to talk about if we have a chance.
Oh, no. That's going to be one of my next questions about the involvement of youth. Obviously, if you can change the minds of some kids, that's perhaps even more valuable and important in the long term. So, Asma, talk to me about, is there a concomitant like youth group?
There is. There's over 14 chapters, teen chapters, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
incredible young girls, high school age girls that are really getting involved. They're really into kind of really standing up for each other and really being there for each other. And it's great to see that at such an influential age that there's such a growth of interest. I think there were only like one or two teen chapters just 2 years ago, and they've grown all over the country. It's not just like in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. I think I was just reading an article recently about the two chapter leads, these teen girls in Memphis, Tennessee.
So, is there an age minimum that, say, a teenage girl or a young girl, do they have to be of a certain age to join one of these teen chapters?
So be at least the age of 13. Other than that, I don't think there's any other minimum.
Now, I got to ask you this question because we've talked about young girls. There seems to be some group missing here. Is there any parallel organization for Jewish and Muslim men to gather around and talk about some of the same issues?
Let me jump in on that one because I think it
That's
relates to
either a yes or no answer. So,
what's that?
what is it?
Yeah.
Well, it's either yes or no.
Well, the answer, as far as I know, no, but that doesn't mean it's no. I don't know of any, but I will say it was intentional on the part of our founders, Cheryl Olitsky and Atia Aftab, to make this a women's organization because women tend to be better at relationships and building connection through relationships. And I think you, Rabbi, with your theology of relationships, was intentionally designed to be women. It was also intentionally designed to be, if you notice, it's just Muslim Jewish. And the intent was, again, to keep the focus on these two particular groups that have so many shared similarities that we're not even aware of. I learned something every time I go to a meeting, and sadly, common threats right now. So.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that because the reality is you're dealing with two, quote, minority communities, but who've also had a very, very different, in many ways, experience in the United States of America. And even right in the contemporary political climate, in many ways, although there's a concomitant rise in anti-Semitism, but groups like QAnon and stuff who are targeting both of our communities in a sometimes not so subtle ways, I would imagine would be the basis of a significant amount of conversation in some of these chapters. And before this, you have, Asma, you said you have 18 women in your particular chapter. Do you see it growing to like 30 or 40 or 50, or is there a specific amount that you have to keep this limited to?
So we try to keep the chapters limited to 20 women for the idea that we want to be connected to each other. When it grows very large, it becomes less intimate and less open. So we do welcome and do have like several chapters in South Jersey that spin off and grow their own. So that's why we've got so many active chapters, is we try to keep the chapters limited to kind of build that community, the sense of trust, to have consistency with the group, because it's over time that you build that relationship and have that community. And when something happens that threatens either one of our communities, because you connected with women of the opposite faith, that you come to their aid and we really step in. And as to the faith, as you mentioned during the pandemic, we've got a couple of sisters that aren't doing as well, that are taking some of the changes in their lifestyle very hard. And because we have built this trust and connection with each other, we do reach out to them even outside of our meetings, because we've had the opportunity to really give a voice and a name to each of these faces.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that keeps coming. I think it's fascinating, and it's a message that gets lost a little bit. That at the end, it's really about just one-on-one human relationships of getting to know another person and how they feel and what hurts them and what makes them joyful. And the same. I got a 12-year-old kid, and this is what I have the same problem. And it's the more we do this, the more we find, I guess. I'm just reflecting on a podcast we just did last week from the president of the World Union for Progressive Judaism, talking about Jewish communities all over the world and how different they are, but yet the people really, in many ways, have the same hopes and dreams and fears. And I'm sensing that in the dialogue that you have in these meetings, the same thing emerges. You walk out of these meetings, I would sense in many cases, saying, they're struggling with the same stuff I'm struggling with. What does it mean, and how to raise a kid, and how to make it through the pandemic, and what's right and what's wrong in the world. You talked about you celebrated holidays. You have these meetings. You've read. You've studied. How much of the next step of outreach into the community does an individual chapter do? What is there? Is there a community outreach program that's part of your particular chapter? And if so, what has it been?
I'll mention the one
Anybody?
in the past. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Asma.
So we do have like social justice action groups. It's really these grassroots events that we do. Everything from like local unity vigils, when we've had synagogues attacks, and we've engaged in protests when Muslim bans were announced, and even at the national level, they've come together to do some active voter engagement and addressing some of the immigration issues and things like that. So there is a lot of activism that's really grown at the local and national level. And in our chapter, we've talked about, we weren't always so prepared to take action in our community when something happened. And we've talked about what can we do and how do we prepare and who do we need to have lined up and what associations and venues should we partner with if we wanted to do something that was more engaging with the community. What other like-minded groups are there that we could reach out to and partner with? So we've done a good bit of that. We've got actually, because the women who are part of these chapters are so passionate about this, also not just engaged in the sisterhood, but they're also engaged in other organizations. So we naturally have a very large network that we can reach out to.
There really are three areas that the organization was founded on: dialogue, socialization, and social action.
Over time, Sisters have really branched out just from our one-on-one small group meetings, and really from meeting for meals in other homes, truly capitalizing on that relationship and really building in order to really create change in our local communities. So we've gotten, for those of us that are involved in other activities, social action, we share that with each other. We do things together as well.
In fact, regarding social action, about 2 Christmases ago, and it's important to note that it was Christmas since it's a holiday that we in the chapter don't celebrate ourselves, but we want to help others who do and who cannot celebrate it as fully as they may like. We worked with Catholic Charities in Camden to provide clothing, some food, and so forth for people in need at that time. And in particular, I believe it was Syrian refugees who were coming in country into this area, and it supported their establishment in this community. And since then, at one point, we've engaged one of the Syrian women is now a member. We love her.
Oh, cool. So there is this three-pronged approach, and community action and involvement, trying to spread the word and the message really of Shalom Salam, and around these three pillars, to mix a metaphor probably a little bit. Before we run out of time, I got to ask you this too, because this is a very difficult and challenging time. on a whole series of different levels. You've dedicated part of your life to try to break down some of these barriers, some of these walls, some of these inconsistencies in society, and frankly, to be honest, some of the prejudices that exist and are right out there in front of us. They're not hidden. All you have to do is read the news, look at the news, or read a newspaper. Let me ask each one of you, what's moving forward with the chapter and with your work? What's the greatest challenge that's facing you? What's the greatest challenge in the work of Shalom Salam moving forward from right now? What do you think? Phyllis, real fast.
Yeah. Probably to make an even greater impact, to spread the word, to do more in the community so that others see how important it is to get to know everybody as equals, as partners, and as friends. Just to spread the word.
Osman, what to you? What's the greatest challenge?
I think the greatest challenge is the increased polarization in our society. People having this fear of others, sense of belonging to one community, one faith. And I feel like, the work that we do has really helped to really bring that down. But we see more and more acts of it happening on a daily basis. And so I think that's going to be our greatest challenges in the rise of the polarization, staying still connected, strong, and getting our voices heard.
Yeah, I sadly have to, I think, agree with you that I got the siloization of American society, the polarization. There doesn't seem to be, and I would imagine just by the fact that the women meet and the kids meet from a variety of different backgrounds, and engage in civil conversation. I mean, the society just seems to be breaking down along the ability of adults to sit down and have a civil conversation about issues without everybody just going to their particular corners and wrapping themselves in whatever language that they want to wrap themselves in. So I imagine these conversations in your chapter can sometimes get very challenging, but the fact that they seem to be done with a lever, as both of you related to at the beginning, but the conversations are held with a sense of trust, and it's a safe holding environment. That when I come into this meeting, what I say is going to be respected, even though you may disagree or you may have a different experience. And to that, kol hakavod, as we would say in our tradition, great honor, because what you're doing is really, and especially with the kids, laying a foundation. Is there an it just occurred to me before we close, is there an educational component to Shalom Salam? Do you do any classes so people who, even online, the people who would want to learn more can, say, take a Zoom class, or is that something that's in the future?
There is one effort I had this summer, and I think there are many more are coming. In fact, to take it, and timing didn't permit, but I think more and more of that is coming online. Asma?
Yeah, no, agree. I think there have been a couple of webinars that people have been invited to, where we've had some of that dialogue. So these are definitely conversations some of the chapters have already had, and they've been kind of asked to record those meetings and share them with the other chapters and sisters. And to exactly the point that you said, Rabbi, it's not about changing minds, it's for respecting each other's perspectives. And, as we start to hear more of that dialogue coming to the forefront, especially more recently, the skills that we've learned with each other, the commonalities, which is the majority of what we have, and having that respectful conversation and respectfully disagreeing and still respecting each other while having differences of opinion has been a really great, I think, skill that we're taking out into the community as well.
Well, it's a very, very lovely way to end it. So thank you very, very much. Thank you for your work. Continued just success and joy, and most of all, right now, health. And if there's anything we can do at Jewish Sacred Aging to help spread the word, consider it a yes. The answer is automatically yes. So keep in touch. Stay healthy. Thank you very much. Phyllis Levy, Usama Kasuba, Sisterhood, Shalom Salam. Again, the website, SOSSPEACE, sospeace.com or org?
Org.
Org. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies, thank you very much. And to all of you, thank you very much for listening to this edition of Secrets of Meaning, the podcast of Jewish Sacred Aging. Again, the website, jewishsacredaging.com, and on that website, you'll find a conveniently located donate button if you would like to continue to help us and support the work that we're doing here at Jewish Sacred Aging, and also the Facebook page, Jewish Sacred Aging on Facebook. A reminder that these podcasts are recorded at the studios of Lubetkin Global Media, located in beautiful downtown Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and we give thanks to our producer, Steve Lubetkin. Again, thank you for being with us. We look forward to greeting you on the next Seekers of Meaning, the podcast of Jewish Sacred Aging. Todah, Shalom, and Salam.